Hey folks, welcome back. This is Joel, and I've been a bit busy last couple of weeks, so I couldn't do um, more videos on SDWAN. So I thought let me just restart and continue with our discussion. Uh, all right. So in this video, we will actually look into. I think we'll look into, like, for example, the control policies, right? I think we have done local control policy before. We will actually look into the central control policy, right? So just to recap on what we have done, this is where we are right now, right? So we have these branches, right? So we have branch 101 over here. We have this is basically 102, and this is 103. So we have three branches, and we also have the headquarters over here, right? So this is what we have, and we have set up the whole complete transport. We have set up the internet, we have set up the MPLS, and everyone will be able to talk to each other right now, and that's what we have tested as of now, right? So where do we go from here? So remember, we talked about local control policy before, right? So we have already talked about local control policy, but today we will actually talk about central control policy. So this will be the crux of our discussion today, right? Now when we talk about control policy, the most important thing is to talk about the vSmart, which is over here, right? The vSmart, right? And I mean, centralized control policy allows you to do a lot of things, but we will concentrate on a subset of things, right? Because we can't probably cover every single thing in a video, so we'll start with covering a subset of things. And what we'll do is so this is the vSmart, right? And we know basically we have control connections to every single vSmart from all my edges in this way, right? Just assume that you have it from the other BR2 and BR. So we have all these control connections, towards vSmart from all our edges, which is good. But now this is a great power of SD-WAN, right? Because you have the whole drain of the control plane over here in vSmart. Now I can define my control policies over here, right? So on my vSmart, you know, if you remember the type of routes, right, in the whole SD-WAN is that you have the OMP routes, right? So you have the TLOC routes, right? And you have the service routes. I'm not going to again explain this. I've covered this multiple times throughout the series. So these are the routes which we have, right? And now we get the flexibility sitting here on vSmart to tinker with these, right? So that's what we are going to do. And majorly when because we're talking about OMP, right, or the whole routing plane of SD-WAN is based out of OMP, and obviously TLOC is also equally important. Um, you can like try to map this to say something like BGP, right? Try to map this to like BGP. In BGP, remember what we do is the path selection, right? When you have multiple best routes, how do you do a path selection? We do it based on attributes. Remember, right? We do it based on attributes. You have like bunch of attributes and you do it based on that. Similarly, in my OMP as well, I have a bunch of attributes, right? Let me just try to reduce the screens, right? So when I talk about OMP, I have a bunch of attributes here as well. So there are close to 8 attributes. Like for example, first you're going to check if the the OMP route is valid, right? If it is valid, and similarly you have like 1 2 3 going on, till 8, right? Bunch of attributes. You have the administrative distance, I remember, and so on. But we will concentrate on just 2 of the attributes because that's something which I want to cover. I can't cover obviously all the 8. So we are going to cover the attribute number 3 and 4, right? The attribute number 3 is your OMP route preference, right? Let me just write it down here. And the attribute number 4 is your TLOC route preference. These are basically nothing but your you can just map it to your BGP, like local pref, weight, and all of those attributes, right? Just consider these to be two attributes of OMP, right? So we are basically going to use only these two attributes in our lab today. I mean, obviously you can go ahead and play around with the the attributes and define control policies based on that, but we will just stick to these two, right? So I think you got a gist of what we are trying to do today. We'll just create a lab. We are basically already having a lab with the whole internet and MPLS transports working. But what we want to do now is we want to tinker with the routing, so that we prefer certain paths, right? That's the whole reason of using like in case of BGP attributes as well. What you're trying to do is you're trying to tinker with the path selection. So that's what we are trying to do. And in because it is SD-WAN, obviously we don't have BGP, but we have something very similar to BGP, which is OMP, and that gives you a bunch of attributes to play with. And we are going to play with the OMP route preference and TLOC route preference in this particular video, right? So that being said, I think we have set up the context. What we are going to do is let's first start with maybe the first use case is going to be TLOC route pref, right? This is our use case. All right. So yeah, let's get to it, guys. Let's go down here. Let's refresh the dashboard to see how it is. This is our vManage. I hope my CLI is up. Yep, so I have it here. My CLI is good. Now let's go back and see. Yeah, so this is my vManage. You can see everything looks good. Where do we go first? What we'll do is, so I just told you what we are going to do. We are going to do the TLOC route preference, but I did not probably clearly call out the use case. So let me go back and clearly call out the use case. So what we have here is that, remember from our topology, or maybe let's just paste the topology. All right, so wait, I think I lost my, give me a second. Yeah, so on my topology, let me just pull up the topology. It should be somewhere here. Yeah, so this is my topology, right? And as per the first use case, which is TLOC route preference, what we want to do is we have, let's take probably this router, which is, we use a red color here. So the BR3 and the headquarters, right, which is over here. You see from BR3 we have multiple transports. We have internet and we have the MPLS. But what I want to do is I want to play around with my TLOC route preference, right? So that I choose the MPLS transport more than the internet, right? So I give more preference to MPLS than internet. Right now I have, tunnels going across both the transports. Like I have like a bunch of tunnels here, right, to every TLOC. But I don't want that. I don't want a huge amount of, because having more tunnels basically means that your operation will be more. You have to maintain a lot of things. But I don't want to do that. I want to prefer the traffic coming in going from BR3 to prefer only the MPLS tunnel. So I'll have to reduce that, right? So from internet, I have to prefer only MPLS. So that's our first case, and we are going to achieve that using TLOC route preference, right? Going back, so this is where we are. Let's go to the monitor, right? Network. Probably let's select my BR3. And on BR3, what I'm going to do is probably go down and let's see the real time, because I want to show you how it looks before, and then so that I can kind of do my control policy and then show you what happens after, right? So here, let me go to, what do I want to see? I want to see OMP, right? So let me go to OMP received routes probably. I think that should work. Let me just OMP received routes. Okay, I'll put in some, let's say I want to check the routes coming in from my headquarters, right? So probably let's put, I already have it here. Would this be visible? I'm not sure. Let's see. Actually, let me remove the filter. I don't like this filter. Let me reset the filter. Close, and yeah, here 172.16. Let's just search for it. Here you go. right? So this is a route coming in from my headquarters, and you can see I have currently that particular route is being learned here in via four different TLOCs, right? If I scroll to the route, you can see these are the four different TLOCs, right? R1 MPLS, R1 Internet, R2 MPLS, and R2 Internet, right? So it is being learned via four different TLOCs. And if I scroll more to the right, let's see if I can see TLOC preference over here. Yeah, I can see OMP preference. Right now it's default, right? So I don't see any OMP preference value being shown. See here, it's all empty. But do I have TLOC preference as well? Probably TLOC IP is there. Okay, so probably I'll get to see that in the TLOC receiver. So I just showed you that I don't have any OMP preference on these routes. Let me now go and check the TLOC preference, right? So if I do OMP received TLOCs on this particular device, so you can see these four TLOCs. For these four TLOCs, if I scroll to the right, here you go. The preference is 0, right? All of them have the same preference, right? So because all of them have the same preference, you have the ECMP paths, right? So where do we check that? We can probably go to tunnel. Let's check the tunnels. Let me show you the. Currently, I just wanted to show you everything is default. We have not done anything. So that's why if I go down here, you will basically see, can I put a filter here? Because I just want to see R1. So, okay, it's also showing me BR1. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, so maybe we could just quickly have a look here, just here. Or how do I think we don't have a unique identifier. Give me a second. So we have 12 tunnels here, right? But I mainly wanted to show you probably 8 of these tunnels, which basically go from the BR3 to headquarters. You're seeing 12 here because it is also showing me the tunnels for BR1-2 and BR1-1, right? So let me see if I can use a filter. Give me a second. Probably not. So I just removed the filter which I had put earlier, but let's just count it, right? So you see we are on BR3 and we are trying to figure out the number of tunnels going to headquarters. So you see here, this is the reason why you need to use some kind of a common labeling, for your host names. That becomes easier. Anyway, so you can see here from BR3, we have one tunnel going to R1, 2, and then 3 and 4, right? So you have 4 tunnels, which is, via the public internet, right? So all of these are starting from the public internet of BR3. So these are 4. If I scroll below, you will see the MPLS tunnels, and you can see there are 4 tunnels here as well going to R1, R2, which is the headquarters, right? So out of the 20 tunnels which are going from BR3, we have 8 of them, 8 tunnels, not to the headquarters, right? We can check this out as well. Where do we check it out? We can go to our amazing tool, which is troubleshooting. And in the troubleshooting, you have the simulate flows, right? Let's select, VPN obviously 10. Excuse me. Yeah. Select VPN 10, and let's select 3.1, and probably going to the source IP is fine. The destination is I want to check to say the headquarters, right? Let's check all the flows. So there you go. You have 8 flows, right? Or 8 tunnels. So that's why you're seeing the 8 tunnels here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? So that is basically what I wanted to show. Before we do anything to the policy, this is what we have, right? We have 8 tunnels going from BR3 to the headquarters. And all of these are equal cost multipaths, right? Now what I want to do is, like I said, I want to create a policy so that handpick, or I reduce this to only the tunnels which will use the TLOC preference, right? Based on TLOC preference, probably let me just use the MPLS tunnels, right? I don't want the public internet. That's what we're going to do. Probably let me just open, so now we go to policies, but let me open this in a new tab. Let's just keep this here because we will be using this for testing it later. Sweet. So once we are on policies, what do? Is we go to, okay, it's logging me in again. Okay, so we are on policies. We don't have any policy yet. I believe we probably have some kind of local policies. I'm not sure if these are activated. These were on the devices which we had put earlier, right? We had done the OSPF and BGP part. So anyway, so going to the centralized policy, we will go to before creating a policy, or maybe let's create a policy. Let's add a policy, right? So when you add a policy, it is going to give me an option to create some of the variables. So here we will need some variables, like for example, site, or do we need site? I'm just thinking, yeah, we'll need site, right? We'll need site. So I already have site all over here, which is good. We already have, I think I've created before, but if you don't have, you can create a new variable for all the sites and put all the site values. Probably I also have a variable for color. Yes, I have a variable for color, which is MPLS, right? If you don't have, you can create this. Now once you have these two variables, what do I do next? Let's go next, click on next. So we are on this let's say dashboard, and we have two options, topology and VPN membership. We'll be doing VPN membership later in another video, but for now we are just going to play around with the topology. And here under the add topology, let's go to custom route, custom control, right? So this is where we'll be defining, right? So here what we'll do is we have to give it a name. Let's probably call this as this is a policy. I mean, this is the specific custom control policy. And what we'll do is so just imagine all these policies what we are configuring here will basically go down to my vSmart, and vSmart is going to use it to either in the inbound or outbound direction. So let's do the first policy, inbound. So which means it is from site, right? I want to tinker with the routes coming from the sites, inbound, right? So let me also call this as route policy inbound to vSmart. Route policy inbound to vSmart. There you go. That's very easy to understand. Now, once we are done with that, we will have to add a sequence type. What kind of a sequence type? Because we're changing the TLOCs. So let's go and select TLOC. Once we are there, what do we do next? So you have a nice dashboard here. So let's go and add a sequence rule. So we added sequence type. Now we're adding a sequence rule. And like I said, the first step is to match based on color, because we want to prefer MPLS. So let's go and select our color, which is here. And the actions, on the actions, we want to obviously accept them. We want to accept the routes. But in addition to that, what we want to do here is, so it's accept is enabled, but we also want to put in preference value, right? That's what we want to do. We want to tinker. So let's add a higher preference value, right? Higher the value of TLOC preference, that particular route will be preferred. Sweet. Great. Let's save. Always remember, the default is also very important. See what is happening in default. Right now, I think it is rejecting all the other routes, but I don't want that. I still want the other routes to be accepted, because in case my in case one of the routes go down, I don't want my whole SD-WAN to go down. I want the other routes to be preferred, right? So I'm going to accept it. So the default is accept. So I'm going to accept all the routes, but at the same time, the routes coming in from TLOC preference from the MPLS transport are going to be given higher preference. That's what we are trying to achieve. And we are done with that. Let's save the control policy. Duplicate policy exists. Oh, okay. So I believe I already have the policy, so that's why I probably tried this earlier. That's why it's not allowing me to do create a new one. So let me just cancel this. So for a minute, let's assume that I already have this, right? So I have the control policy. which means right. So I'm just going to, let's go and import the existing policy, because I believe I've created the same thing before. Since I'm creating one more, let me just select this. Let's import it. So there you go. I have the policy. Do I need something else? Okay, so that's good. Do I have everything? Let's click on next. So this is I'm not going to be using much around here. So let's go and click on next again. Not needed. Okay, so this is interesting. So here, once you have selected the policy, you need to mention for what sites you're going to be using this policy against, right? So let's add. Do I already have some sites? No. So let's add a new site. And when you add that, it will ask you inbound or outbound, right? We are making this policy inbound. So let me go and select that, select the site. There you go. Once you're done with that, probably will get added. Maybe I'll have to click on add. Yep. So there you go. Now it got added. So be careful with that. You need to add it. And once it is added, now I can save the policy. Okay. So I need a name. Okay. So the name could be something like, I'm just going to use control policy, right? Let's give it a name here as well. Save. Awesome. So we have the policy created, right? Pretty simple. What we did was we initially created some variables. Then we created a policy called from, we created a custom route policy called from site, right? And then we attached it to the centralized policy. So because in SD-WAN, you either have centralized or localized, right? Under each of these, you again have data policies and control route policies, or route policies. So the steps are, you basically first create your route policies, and then you come and attach it to either your centralized or local policy. So that's what I've done, right? So this is the centralized policy now, which will get applied. How do you apply it? Very simple. Go down here, click on activate. So now it is going to activate this on my vSmart, obviously, right? Because control policy mainly go on the vSmart. So once this is done, I can probably go and even check it out. Let's see, do I have a connection to my vSmart? Yes, I have it here. Let me just clear the screen a bit. Did this go through? Not yet. Yep, it went through, which means we should be good to go and check it out. So run, say something like policy, right? There you go. So we have created this policy. So you can see here, it is visible here on the vSmart, right? Basically telling that, the control policy name is from site, and it's going to match on TLOC, right? MPLS, and it's basically all the routes coming in from MPLS are going to be tagged with a preference value of 200. Sweet. Now let's go and check what has changed in our monitor phase. So let's go back to monitor here. I'm just going to keep this window as is because I want to show you. I'm not sure it's going to refresh. Hope it doesn't refresh so that I can show you the differences. But where are we? So we are on monitor. Let's go to network. Let's again do the same thing which we did at the start of the video, which is BR3. OMP received route. So let's go to real-time visualization here. That is real-time, the last one. And here, let me select something like OMP received TLOCs. Now you will see something different. What you see is that for the first 4 routes, right, for the first 4 TLOCs, if I scroll to the right, let's go to the TLOC preference value. Yep, here you see the TLOC preference has changed to 200, right, for the MPLS based out. So these are the MPLS based out, the first and the third one, and you can see the TLOC preference has changed. Right? Isn't that amazing? Just by click of a button, I was able to do that. Right? Now let's see how this has changed my routing table. Right? So if I do OMP received routes, sorry, I think I just clicked on the same thing. If I do OMP received routes, show filter, no, do not filter. I don't want any filters. So let's filter down to that 32 route, right, which is basically the route coming from the headquarters, the one which is on the switch. So if I scroll down, probably I'll see it. Not yet. Did I miss? Oh, here we have it. So this is the route, right, which I was using in my pre as well. So you can see now what has happened is that the status earlier of all these four routes, right, all the four of these routes were installed on the routing table. So all of them had, CIR for all of them. But now you can see the CIR is there only for two of the routes. Why? Because these are the ones which are coming in from the MPLS transport. You can see here MPLS, MPLS. That's why they have CIR. CIR is basically telling you that they are, installed in the routing table. Okay. Now the next check is, let's go and check on the tunnels. What has happened on the tunnels? Remember, we had 8 tunnels earlier, right? So the tunnels basically would still be there. So you can see here we have the 4 tunnels and the 4 tunnels with the internet, and the 4 tunnels coming in uh, from the public from the MPLS as well, right? So we have all those tunnels still state is up, so all of them will still be up, right? Just putting control policy will not remove them because we have accepted all the TLOC routes, right? So as soon as you accept a TLOC route, the VH will go and create a tunnel for it. Excuse me. So yeah, so you have all the tunnels up. Let me just see if this is visible here. No, okay. So we have all the tunnels. So I just wanted to show you that the tunnels will not change because all the TLOC routes are accepted. As a result, all the tunnels will be there. But what would have changed is if I go to my troubleshooting. Remember, in my previous window here, I had 8 paths, right? 8 different paths which the route is going to take, right? But now only 4 of them will be utilized. So let me just simulate the flows and VPN 10. Let's select VPN 10 and yeah, that's fine. Okay, source IP doesn't matter, and let's use the same thing and simulate. You see the difference? Here is the difference, right? We were having 8 here. Why 8? Because we were using MPLS. So you can see the destination. Let me just try to use my pen if I can. Probably not. Anyway, so you can see here the destination, transport. I mean, we have not done anything to the from transport, right? The transport originating from BR3, that is still there. We are still using MPLS and internet, but the destination transport, if you see earlier we were using public internet and MPLS, but now you see the destination transport is going to be only MPLS, right? Because of our control policy, because of our TLOC route preference, what is happening is, these are the routes. These are the routes which are taking more preference, and it is still ECMP, but it is going to be ECMP only between these 4 paths, right? So just tinkering the value of TLOC preference, we were able to now bring down, the possible ECMP paths from 8 to 4, right? We still have tunnels, right? All the 8 tunnels which I showed earlier, they're still up, but they are not going to be used for, the traffic flow. Only these 4 are going to be used. Okay, great. So the other thing is which I want to show you is the failover part, right? I'm not sure if this would work, so let me bear with me. So what I'm going to do is now what we have achieved is we have reduced it from say the 8 possible paths to just 4 paths. But what if my MPLS goes down, right? Imagine it's possible, right? So you right now is you have selected, or you have you have made sure that MPLS is preferred. But what if unfortunately this MPLS goes down, right? Do you want your whole SD-WAN to go down just because of that? No. So you would want it to fail over to the other transport, right? So that's what we are trying to simulate now, right? We're not going to do any changes, no policy. It should happen automatically, right? Because we have all the tunnels, remember? So anyway, so let's try that. So what we'll do is, for this exercise or for this test, let's go to the switch 2 here on the side 3, and let me start a ping, right? And then let me go and shut down this interface here on this MPLS connect for the headquarters, because you see for the MPLS connection for the headquarters is coming in from here. So if I shut down this interface, the MPLS connection will be lost. right? And we should see if the packets will still flow, right? So let's do that test. So I just want this MPLS and I want this switch 2, right? Let's see that. So this is my switch 2, I believe. What I'll do is let me try to pull this to the right. Can I do that? Yep, that's good. I like that about your secure CRT. So there you go. So I have that on the right, and you see here the interface which is connecting up is Ethernet 0/0. Let's see. Yep, this one. So I want to shut that up now. So show interface brief is here. So let's go down here. Before shutting it up, I'll have to start a ping. So let's do ping to 172.16.32.1, right? So this is from my side 3. I'm trying to ping my headquarters, and let's put a repeat of, I don't know, probably like 10,000. Doesn't matter, I can remove it whenever I want. So there you go. Let the ping start. Yep, so the ping has started. Let's let it go for a while. Yep, so it's going. Just pull this to the left a bit. Okay, so this is good. So the ping is happening, but now I'll be a bit of an evil person and let me go and shut down that interface. Which one? Ethernet interface Ethernet. Which one? 0/0, right? So let me shut it. So as soon as I shut, you can see. There you go. Okay. I can still see. There are dots up there. Okay, there you go. It has picked up again. There you go. It is now continuing its forwarding, right? So you saw here there was a bit of drop. There were a few packets which got dropped, around 6 packets. But then, obviously you can reduce that by doing a bit of tinkering. But I just wanted to show you the failover, right? So there was a bit of drop, but then it continued flowing. So now if I go and check my so this was my earlier one. Let me just open another tab here. Link a new tab, and let me show you the difference. What would have happened? Loading. Give it a second. So let's go back to again BR3. So because I'm on BR3, let's go to my real time, and I want to show you what would have changed with respect to, say, OMP received routes. OMP received routes. Do not filter. Show me everything. Let's scroll this a bit down. Here you go. So here you can see the routes which were having CIR earlier, right? The ones which are corresponding to the MPLS. Let's scroll to the right a bit, right? The ones which are coming from MPLS, right? They had CIR earlier, but now they have been made invalid. Why? Because we don't have connectivity, right? That MPLS tunnels will no longer have the BFD connectivity or BFD health. So as a result, they are invalid, and suddenly the failover has been initiated, and the routes coming in from the public internet, right? They have been installed in the routing table, and that's why they are forwarding, right? We could also check this out from our amazing tool, which is our troubleshooting. Just observe here. So on simulate, let me just go and do the same thing which I did earlier. The source IP and the destination is same thing. Now when I hit the simulate, right, this is what you see. See the difference between this and this, right? You can see here the destination transport was MPLS earlier, but when MPLS was taken down, it has switched over to public internet, right? Isn't that amazing? So that's basically what we just did now, right? We checked out, we added a policy, and we made sure that we can tinker with the routes, we can tinker with which path we want to take, and then we also tried to do a failover, and then we saw that when you do a failover, it can again always go back to the other available transport, right? That's basically what I've been telling since my first video, that SD-WAN allows you to intelligently switch traffic between your transports, and this is a very good example for that, right? Awesome. So next, All right, so let me just go and stop this. We'll probably need this later again, but let me, do I want to, yeah, let me go and do a no shut here. So when I do a no shut here, we should get the stuff back here. So let me, run this again. It should go back to the original one, right? Because now MPLS is back up. There you go. See, I just refreshed it and we have the MPLS backup, right? Let me quickly check if all my TLOCs are available as well. So just pull this to the right. Laptop gets a bit stuck at times. Bear with me. All right. So the next stuff, the next use case, what we'll try is, so this is what we did now. Let me try to reduce the size a bit. Okay, that's good. So the second use case, what we are going to try is again pretty simple. What we'll do is we want to now play with the other parameter, which is OMP Route Preference, right? And what is the use case which we'll be using here? It's going to be as simple as, let me just put in the image again. I believe it's here. Yep, there we go. Yeah, so the use case here is going to be, we have done this right now, right? We have done the step number 1, which is preferring the MPLS, right? So this is my headquarters and this is my BR3, and I have preferred my MPLS, right, instead of my internet. But I want to get more greedy, and I want to kind of like, between this MPLS, I want to select my R1, right? So right now I have my R1 and R2, right, which is providing the connectivity. Between my R1 and R2, I want to preferably select R1, right? So what I mean by that is, so right now if I demystify this, I have transport coming from R1 MPLS, we have R1 internet, then we have R2 MPLS and R2 internet, right? So right now, because of my tinkering of the TLOC preference, I had actually, in my previous thing, I had selected R1 MPLS and R2 MPLS. I had given these guys more preference, right? But I want to go one step ahead, and I want to give only this guy, right, which is my R1 MPLS, the first preference, right? So this is how it is going to be. I'm trying to do that now, but not using TLOC route preference, rather using OMP route preference, right? And the other thing which I want to say here is, remember the 8 points which I was talking about, the 8 attributes. So out of those 8 attributes, if you look here, the first attribute, the one which takes higher preference, is the OMP. Then comes the TLOC, right? So what we are doing now in step 2 is the one which comes here, right? Takes higher preference, and then comes the TLOC, which we did here, right? So ideally what will happen is that, because this is having higher preference, the TLOC route preference which we set earlier is not even going to be useful, or it's not going to be applied, or it's not going to have any power, right? Because it comes lower in the in the table, right? So that's what we are going to, we'll understand more as and when we go ahead with the lab. But this is what we are trying to do, right? We are trying to use the OMP route preference on the headquarters, so that out of R1 and R2's MPLS, we are going to prefer the R1's MPLS, right? So all of this is because I'm just creating these use cases so that we understand how how granular we can go to picking a particular path SD-WAN setup. Sweet. All right, let's go back. So we are here. Where do we? go is, let's go to probably go to back to our amazing policies. Sorry, here let's go to policies. Once we are on the policies, next is we want to check, probably we'll have to create some lists, right? So let's go to the list. So this is basically like creating a variables, right? What list do I want here? I had earlier created a color called MPLS, but now I might also need internet, right? You'll understand why, but let's just create a internet for now. Call it as internet. The color I get to select here. It's public internet. Find it somewhere here. Okay. So once I've selected that, I can add it. Sweet. I've added it. And what else do I want? That's it, I guess. I mean, I just wanted internet, right? Okay. So next is I can go back to my control policy or centralized policy. Let's go back here, and probably I can edit this. Maybe, yeah, I think I can edit this so that I can add more stuff, right? Let's go and edit it. Right, we are basically using the earlier policy and adding something to it, right? So here, when I'm on this one, select your network. So where do we do that? So this is having just the from site part. Okay, give me a second. Yeah. So I'm basically going and adding another route policy. So you just need to move from the policy application to the topology. And here, let me say, create another custom control route, just like I created earlier, right? And here I'm going to give this name as two site because I want to do this outbound, right? Earlier, sorry, two sites or two site something. Because earlier, remember, I did from site because it was inbound. Now I want to do two site. Great. And this time, let's create on sequence type. But this time I'll select route because I'm changing not TLOC but rather OMP route, right? So I have to use the route control policy. So you need to know which one you have to use when. If you're changing TLOC preference, then go to TLOC. If you're changing OMP route preference, then use OMP route basically. Awesome. So we are here now. Sequence type. Let's click on sequence rule. And what we'll do is here. Let's match it based on color, obviously. So the color list is going to be MPLS. There you go. Selected MPLS. Action for MPLS is going to be what? Action is going to be accept, and I have to put preference, right? You can see you don't see the preference which appears here is basically OMP preference. It's not the TLOC preference. So I'm going to select and add 200, right? Probably save that. But why I added internet is I want to add one more sequence rule here, right? If I go back to my diagram here, I selected R1 MPLS, that's the first preference, but what if that goes down, right? I want to give the second preference to someone else, right? So the second preference would be, I want to give this guy the second preference, which is R1 internet, right? Always remember, we are doing something on OMP here, OMP route preference. So this will always be preferred, right? This metric will take preference than the TLOC. So for a minute, just forget about the TLOC preference, which we did, in the previous use case, right? So when you are tinkering with the OMP preference, the OMP preference will take first, priority, right? And as a result, the first preference will be given to R1 MPLS because we have given a higher value. But for R1 internet, I will give a little lower value, right? So that it takes the second preference, right? So we'll go back here. Let's again go back to color list. Let's add one more color, which is internet. But adding color is not sufficient. I have to go to actions. I'll go to accept, and let's probably add the preference. But the preference here is going to be just 100, right? Earlier it was 200 because I want MPLS to take the higher preference, but you see I have to add it to sequence rules here. Awesome. Let's go and save this. Okay, so we have saved it. What else do we do? Are we good? Do we have to do anything else? Let's see in the policy application, right? In the policy application, I believe for the from site, I have added the sites or the direction and all of that. But for my to site, I have not done that, right? So let's go back and do that. So this is, I'm going to apply it to site on. That's true. but I'm going to be applying this where? So it's in the outbound direction, right? Okay, sorry, I think I made a mistake. So not on the inbound side, I want to add it on the outbound side. There you go. Right? So you can see here, this is applied on the out direction. From side, it was applied in the in direction, but this one is going to be applied in the out direction. So now I can save this. Always remember to create the policy, then go and apply it. Now, since we already have the centralized policy attached, right? So it's going to directly activate this. So activate it. Just get familiarized with the UI. It's pretty simple. When you start playing around with it, it becomes pretty simple. Just remember that you have centralized policy, localized policy, and under each of them you can create control policies and data policies. And then make sure that just creating policy is not sufficient. You have to go and apply it. Right? Now that we have finished this, we can now go and check. Let's go back to our monitor. Let's go to monitor. Let's go to network. I'm sorry about my dog. All right, so we are here. All right, so let's go back to BR3 and let's check the OMP received routes again. Let's see the changes which would have happened. Let's go to OMP received routes or TLOCs. I mean, let's check TLOCs because I want to see what has changed over there. Okay, that's weird. Give me a second. Okay, that's strange because I was expecting to get all the TLOCs, but we are getting the ones which we prefer. Okay, I think I know the issue. So let's go down here to policies. Let's open this in a new tab. I believe it's because I have I did not the default action, right? I did not do the default action part when I created this new policy, right? So let's go there. Let's go to topology. Yeah, so here the to side, right? Let's see, let's edit. I have a feeling I did not yeah, see here the default action. So as a result of this, all the other routes are getting rejected. So I'm going to enable this, save policy, activate again. Okay, let's do next, configure. Let's wait for this to happen. Okay, that's done. Now let's probably refresh this. Yep, there you see. Now all the other TLOCs are coming, right? But mainly what I wanted to show here is if I scroll to the right, I will basically not see any change here, right? The earlier policy is still put in place, the TLOC preference policy and the 200, you see it for all the MPLS based, transports routes. So nothing changed here because of our policy which we've created now, which is the two side, right? So let's go to the OMP received routes. But yeah, I just wanted to show you how, missing out on the default action can screw up stuff, right? So always remember the missing out, the default action is very important. Anyway, so here let's go back to the same route which we were observing earlier, 172.16.32, I believe. Let's scroll down a bit more. Yep, here we go. So these are the routes. 1632. Is that the route? Let me see. All right, so here is my route. Let's okay here. The 172.16. This is the route which is learned from the headquarters, And okay, that's weird. We still have two routes being preferred. I did not intend that to happen. That's interesting. Okay, let's see why this has happened. If I scroll to the right, yep. Oh, okay, got it. So what it is doing is it is still, I mean, it has changed the OMP preference. You can see the values have changed. For MPLS, it has put 200. For internet, it has put 100. But it has done the same thing for R2 as well, right? You can see here it has done the same thing for R2. So we have to go and fix that. We have to do this only for what? My R1, right? So let's go here because that was our use case, right? We want to specifically go and select, or we want only the routes coming from R1 to be preferred. So let's go and edit that. So here, right, let's go and click on edit. So along with the control color list, let me also add originator, right? This is what I missed, right? So the originator is basically the system ID, which is 172.16 dot sorry dot 0 dot 11. It's good that we are. I mean, I did that because now I can show you, the mistakes as well. So right. So let's add it here as well to the originator, which is 172.16.0.11. So this is the system IP of R1, right? So now what we are telling is make these changes only for the R1 and not to R2, right? So I'm gonna put this policy activated. Next, configure. Okay. Once that completes, we should see, basically what I want to see is I want to have only one specific route for one specific path, right? For example, for 172.16.32, I don't want to have two CIRs. I want to have only one CIR, and the one which you see should be preferred from R1. That's my whole, agenda here, right? So let's just wait. Yep, that's done. So maybe if I refresh this now, has that been fixed? Let's scroll down. Yep, there you go. It's fixed, right? So you can see now 172.16.32.0. It's you have the CIR or the route which is installed in the routing table, and that's just the one. Which is the one which is coming from R1 and MPLS, right? Awesome. So we could also check this where probably let's check it from our monitor interface, right? Let's go to our monitoring. Let's verify whatever we have done. Let's go to monitor network. We are 3, and let's go to our amazing troubleshooting app. Simulate flows, right? And VPN 10. We should basically be now talking to R1 MPLS, as simple as that. Nothing else. Or we should have only that as our path. Let's check if that works. There you go, right? So this is my R1, and we are talking to only R1 MPLS, right? We are not using R1's internet either. Awesome. Sweet. Now let's do the same failover test like we did earlier, right? So when we do the failover test, let's just try to understand what will happen, and then we can do the failover. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring down R1 MPLS, right? So when I bring down R1 MPLS, it should then fail over to R1 internet, right? Do you agree with me? So that's basically what I want to do. So let's do that, right? So let's go back to my amazing topology. So basically I'll have to bring down the same, R1 MPLS over here and do the same thing which we did here earlier. So let's just get this up, and probably let's just open it on the side. Do I have, sorry, I think I've shut it down. So it's Ethernet 0/0. Anyway, okay. So let's go here. Let's go to show IP interface brief. Sorry. Right, the Ethernet 0/0. That's what I want to bring down. And over here, this is my site 3. I'm going to do ping 172 dot what? 16, I believe it's 16.32.1 if I'm not wrong. Let me check if this works. Yeah, cool. So I'm gonna repeat this for say 1000. Just pull this to the left a bit. I have more visibility over here, right? Or probably 10,000. Let's just do that. Yeah, there you go. So the ping has started, the test has started, which means from branch 3 I'm talking to the headquarters. Now I'll be a bit of a bad person here and let me bring down what interface Ethernet 0/0, right? I'm gonna do shut. So before I hit the shut button, what I wanted to observe is, even though I shut this, even though I bring down, let me just use this, even though I bring down the R1's MPLS over here, it should fall back to R1 internet because that's what the policy we have done, right? So let me shut it down. There you go. Taking a bit of time. 2 packets are dropped. There you go. It has started back again, right? And we can observe this here. So we had, MPLS being preferred, but now if I refresh this, or let's say I hit the simulate button, just observe here, we had MPLS earlier, right? R1 MPLS. In the destination, you see MPLS. Let's see what is going to happen now. See, it has failed over to internet. Isn't that amazing? Right? Awesome. So let's do one more thing. Now, can I do that? I'm just thinking, can I do one more test where I can probably, give me a second. All right, so I believe, since I brought down the MPLS over here, it kind of brought down the MPLS of both R1 and R2. So, I can still do some kind of null zero configuration and try to bring down only the R1's MPLS to show you the failover. But I think you understand the idea, right? This is pretty much what I actually wanted to show. But if you want to try that, you can do that. So what we did just now is, if I go back to my diagram, so we brought down the R1's MPLS so that switchover happened to R1 internet. But what I can do next is, you can bring down the R1's internet and you will see the older policy kicking in, right? Because you see the preference, because of the preference till now, until you had the OMP preference or the routes from the tagged with the OMP preference, this policy was not even getting acted. But now, since I brought down, this one, right? Since I brought down the whole R1 here, right? So this policy is no longer will be useful, and this policy will kick in, right? And that's where R2 MPLS will be preferred, and then R2's internet will be preferred, right? So you can try this obviously in your lab. Probably try to bring down R1 internet, and then you can see the switchover happening, right? But anyway, so that's the whole idea here, which I wanted to show as part of this. Okay, so let me just go back and bring this up. So let me just stop this first and do a no shut here, and look at how quickly the change happens once I do a no shut. Let me try to refresh this. Okay, it's still not. Give it some time. No, probably it will take some time because the control connections have to be established, right? All right, so it's up now. You can see it's back to the earlier state, right? I can quickly verify if all my control connections are up as well. Okay, it's probably taking some time to come up. All right, so it's all up now. We'll have to wait for a few seconds, for the control connections to up because I have shut it down, right? Next, what are we gonna do next? First, let me go and probably deactivate the policy we had created because I'm not gonna use that anymore. Sorry, click on that. So you go down to policies. It's pretty easy, right? This is why I love SDWAN. So now I can just remove the policies which I created. Just right click of a button. Right, here you go, deactivate. Right, this is going to be kicked in and all the policies are gonna go for a toss, which means we will have all the tunnels back up as we had earlier before starting this video, right? A complete full mesh kind of a topology. But while that is happening, let me talk about the next use case. What I'm going to do is, so if you see here in my diagram, right now, let me just clear this. I think it looks ugly. Let me get the image again. right? So this is what I have, and what has happened right now is, you know, this is good, yeah, visible, right? Okay. So what we have done right now is, uh, we did the whole control policy, but if you observe, um, say between R1 and R2, right? Say this is my tunnel. Let me just use this headquarters, right? From headquarters, say to site 101. This is my site number 101. Let me use a different color, right? So this is my site 101, and this is my headquarters. Between these two guys, we have close to, I don't know, maybe more than 15 or 16 tunnels, right? Because we have, MPLS and internet on each of these guys. So you'll have MPLS and internet, MPLS and internet, right? You have it on all the four sides. So this guy will be trying to talk to this guy again will try to talk to the other one. So you will have all of those permutations, combinations here. So you'll have a lot of tunnels here. Now this will give rise to a very interesting problem where the tunnel might start from, say, R1's MPLS, and it might go on the other side to internet of, say, BR1, right? So here the transport will be MPLS, and here it will switch to internet, right? Because tunnels are basically formed between TLOCs, right? So you're going to have this as one TLOC here, right? And this also will be another TLOC, right? Yes, you will have one more tunnel going from obviously MPLS to the MPLS here of BR1. This is also there, but you will also have this one, right? You will also have the tunnel going to the internet. Now, what happens is, in an actual scenario, this might cause the performance of an application or to deteriorate, because say your MPLS transport has better quality, right? And what happens is you're selecting MPLS on one side, but on the other side it might, while it goes over, right, it might switch over to another transport, because by default every VH tries to form tunnels with every TLOC. So it will try to form TLOC with internet on the other side as well as MPLS, right? So this is where we have to, if you want to restrict it to one particular transport, like for example, I want it to start from MPLS and just use MPLS on the other side, right? So that is where, that's basically what we are going to do next. That's our third use case, right? So to do that, it's pretty simple. This is my, it's actually pretty simple, right? You don't have to do it in the control policy. What you have to do is, let's go down here. So this has been applied, which is good. If you want to check if this got applied properly, you can come back here to my, probably go to troubleshooting. Do I have a page? Yeah, so I have here. So you can see now I can just, if I hit simulate, I should have the whole 8 flows, right? So that means this got, the deactivation was completed successfully, right? Now let's go back to my what we were discussing, right? So let's go to templates for doing that. So we don't want any cross connection between transports when the tunnels are coming up. We want it to be between the same transports, right? So let's go to feature templates. Right? So in each of these templates, remember, we have templates for internet and we have the templates for MPLS. So we'll have to go and do it on both. So let's probably do for, I don't know if I have iNet. Do I have iNet here? Yep. So I have one for 4 devices. Okay, then probably do I have one more for the rest of the 2? I'll have to check. So I need to do this. Let me check which are those, right? So I have one over here, the iNet interface, and the other one would be, yeah, so I was correct, right? So I think I believe we did TLOC extension on the other two. So let's do that. Let's start with iNet. Let's go to interfaces. What we do is, let's go to edit, and here let's go to, we go under the tunnel interface once it loads. Right, so here restrict. So you see under the tunnel interface we have turned off restrict. If I turn this on here, Right, okay, I'll have to change to global, turn it on, right, update. So this will apply to BR2, BR3, and I believe it will also apply to the what is this? The headquarters R1 and BR1, right? Because these are the 4 devices which have the internet transport. I mean, other 2 also have it, but they have it via the TLOC. So we'll have to do it in the TLOC extension. Anyway, so let's go and apply this. Let's confirm this. Okay. All right, that's completed. Let's go back and continue and do it on the rest of the guys. Well, if you understood the concept, you can just fast forward the video here because I'm going to be basically doing the same thing on. First, let me do it for MPLS and then we'll do it on TLOC. Right, so MPLS, if I check, so I have MPLS dual and I have MPLS here, so I'll have to do it on both. So let's edit it. Right, let's go to restrict, let's turn it on. Let's click on next. Okay, that's done. Probably I'll have to go back and do it on the other MPLS as well, right? So I did it only on one. So let's do MPLS. There are 2 more devices here where I'll have to do. So basically all your VPN 0 templates, right? You have where the tunnel interfaces are getting created, you'll have to do this for both your MPLS and. So let's go down here, let's click on global, turn it on, update. Okay, so that's happening. Ideally, how much we should have is we are basically gonna have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, right? 12 transports. So we have done on 8, we have to do it on 4 more, and the 4 more are basically going to be done using the TLOC. Right, so let's do it on TLOC now. Let's go to templates and feature templates. So here, let's search for TLOC. Do we have a TLOC? Yep, we'll have to do it on the tunnel. So these are the 4 devices which I was talking about. All right, so here on the TLOC as well, go to tunnel and let's go to restrict. Let's turn this on here, update. Awesome. So now that's completed. Let's go to my monitor and let's check if that worked. Let's go to network. We have been using only BR3. Probably let me use maybe the headquarters once. So from the headquarters, if I go to tunnels, right, you will now see the number of tunnels would have reduced. You can see here the tunnels which are there, they are starting from R1's internet going to internet, right? R1's internet, BR2 internet, BR3 internet. So you can see the matches. Here you see from R1 to MPLS, this is not up, the state is not up, so it's not being used. The ones which are up are the ones which have the exact matching, right? Basically both the when transports are same on both the sides, that's basically being used. Awesome. So that's basically good. We can also check this on the using our troubleshooting tool as well. So the troubleshooting, let's do simulate flows, right? And maybe let me just use a different device. Basically, let's use R3 itself because we have some connection to it. We have seen the older flows, so it'll be easier to see. So let's use VPN 10. Let's use the same thing. Source doesn't matter, destination is 32, and if I hit simulate here, you can see here, look at the pattern. It is MPLS, MPLS, or internet, internet, right? You can see how the flows have now number of paths has reduced, but in addition to, I mean, we have deactivated the control policies, remember? So there are no more control policies, but the number of flows has reduced from 8 to 4 because we have removed the cross, transport by we have restricted it, right? And you can see that on the device as well here. If you do show run of any device, on R1, you can see under VPN 0, you're basically going to have color restrict to this, right? Similarly, on the MPLS, interface also, you'll have something very similar. Okay. So we did 3 use cases. What else do you want to do here? I remember I had planned to do something else as well. Okay, so let's try that. I'm not sure it will completely work in this simulated environment, but let's try that. So let me clear this. What we will do now is, if you look at our diagram, the last use case which I want to do is, let's use library. Probably this video is getting a little longer. Maybe you can divide it into 2 when you're viewing it. Should be fine. But let's see. So this is our topology, right? And what I want to do is, say I'm on R3, right? I'm on R3. Use a different color. Right. Okay, so I'm on R3, and let's say I'm going to R2, right? Between these two guys. Okay, so between these two folks, I have multiple transports. I have internet, I have MPLS, which is all right. But what if I want to prefer, right? Or I want all my flows, which is cool. Actually, let's actually do this. Let's check from BR3 to BR2. What are the number of flows, right? Because we have restricted this, right? So I want to show you after restriction how many number of flows we have. So 172.16. Sorry, it's going to be actually, we will probably have to do this from the gigabit 3.10 going to 2.10, if I'm not wrong. Let's do that. So because we are doing it to branch 2, right? The interface of branch 2 is this from the topology, right? So now if I hit the simulate, you can see we have just 2 flows. The reason is because of the restrict, right? We have public internet, MPLS, MPLS. If we remove the restrict, we'll have 2 more. Anyway, so now we have 2 flows. What if I want to prefer one flow, when it comes to sending data, right? If I want to, I know it's doing ECMP, but what if I want to prefer one flow probably 5 times more than the other, right? Right, or basically if I want to send 5 times more traffic on internet than MPLS, right? So let's say I want to do that. How would I do it? Right? So that's basically what we are going to do next. So for that, right, to do that, we have to now tinker with the internet's template, right? So let's go to the internet's template. Let's go to here, templates. I'll show you where you have to do that. So all of this you can do it without using control policies. What I want to show you, right? You don't have to do it on control. So let's go to inet. Okay, so I think this is going to be applied on probably all of them, but that's all right. No issues. So let's edit this. So under the tunnel, you will find a metric called weight. So we have to tinker with the weight for this. Let's go for that. Do we have weight somewhere? Can you spot weight? Maybe somewhere here. Maybe it is under advanced options. Let's check. Yep, there you go. So you see, there is weight here. So let me change this to global and change it to say 5, right? So let me update this. So this will obviously go in for all the 4 devices, which is fine. I'll just be checking this on obviously in these 2 folks. I mean, right now, because you see, without the whole thing, we have, is that, okay. Right now, without the weight, you can see this will be load balance, which means, one flow will be going like this and other one will be going here. But what I want to do is I want to send 5 times more traffic on the internet than MPLS. Right? That's what we are trying to do. So it might not exactly be 5. So we'll have to wait for that to happen, but let's see. Let's just wait for this. Okay, so the application is successful. Now let's go back here, right? So this one will still remain the same, right? It will still have two paths. So what we'll do is we'll go to advanced options here, and let's change this all paths to single path. So when I hit simulate here, what is happening is, see, the first time it is using internet, right? Let me keep on incrementing the IP address over here, right? So I'm using a different flow now, right? Because ECMP happens based on flow, right? So I'm trying to do, give me a second, it's stuck, right? I changed the IP address. Let's see, simulate. Okay, it used MPLS now. Let's see, 12. What does it use? See, it used internet. And 13, it used internet again. See, twice it used internet. Let's do 14. See, again it is using internet. So you can see the number of times it is using internet is more than the number of times it is using MPLS. See, once again internet. Occasionally, once in a while, you will find it using MPLS because we have set it to something like 5:1, right? So that occasionally might come soon, or it might come a bit later. Let's try maybe a couple of these. See, there you go, the MPLS came back, right? So that is pretty interesting, right? So though you have ECMP paths, if you want to kind of like send more traffic on one particular path, then you can play with the weights, right? So that's basically everything which I wanted to show you here. Let me just try to recap because that's very important. Let me just clear the canvas, right? So what we did was, the first one was we talked about the TLOC route preference, right? And how we can like tinker with this to prefer one particular transport over the other. Second is we played with the OMP route preference, right? Where what we did was, after we had selected, we had R1 over here and we had BR3, we had actually selected the MPLS path. We had R2 as well. So because of TLOC route preference, we had selected the MPLS, both via R1 and R2. But using this, we were now able to restrict it to only one, right? Or give this guy more preference, right? So that was the second use case. Third one is, what we did was we tried the restrict part. That is, we wanted to kind of prevent, we wanted to prevent the tunnels originating from MPLS and going to something like, internet, right? So cross connection, we prevented the cross connection over here, which means now MPLS starting was going for MPLS, right? And something starting from internet was going to the internet. The fourth use case was wait, right? With wait, what we did was we wanted to send, without doing any control policies, we wanted to send kind of more flows on one particular path and less flows on the other path. So that was achieved using wait, right? So just to double click, right? So we did these both using the control policy, centralized control policy, and these two we could do it using just the templates, right? Though we are doing it using the templates, underlying it, the configuration is obviously going into the OMP and all of that, but this is what we accomplished in this particular video, right? Cool. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. Sorry, probably it was a bit of a lengthy video, but yeah, I just wanted to cover everything which I wanted to. Thanks again for watching. Have a good day.